Do want you to bring in the new year on Sunday night, so all morning long we've been giving you tips on how to avoid the ER on New Year's Eve.
And Kelly's forecast calls for the coldest temperatures in almost 3 years this weekend. That's why we sent our Carlos Diaz to IU Health Methodist Hospital to get you some very helpful advice for New Year's Eve. Carlos, help us stay safe, please.
Yeah, let's say it's one of those things where I was talking to Kelly earlier today, Kelly Green, our meteorologist, and she said it's going to be -2 when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve. Wind chill of -10, between -10 and -15. So we're here in the ER, so you don't have to be on New Year's Eve. We're talking to Dr. Jamie Coleman, who's a trauma surgeon here. And first off, let's just talk, before we get to the cold weather, let's talk about some of the things that people might not realize is going to get them in the ER. Those confetti poppers are actually pretty dangerous.
You have to be careful. You know, when you're celebrating New Year's Eve, there are things you think about. Confetti poppers are one of them. But you have to be careful. It really can put an eye out. So
you've actually, like your mom always said, but you've seen people here in the ER after being hit with a confetti popper.
Yes, you can see eye trauma from those. Absolutely, your mom was right.
Okay, so this sounds like a kind of a no-brainer. But guns on New Year's Eve. What do you see with a lot of people and guns on New Year's Eve?
Guns should not be used to celebrate anything, and especially New Year's Eve. You know, we've seen where people will shoot them up in the air to celebrate midnight, and just don't do it. The problems are the bullets have to go somewhere, and unfortunately, they can go into people.
Okay, so let's talk about the cold weather. This is going to be a big problem on this New Year's Eve. We're talking about maybe the coldest New Year's Eve in the last 3 years. So when you have someone who's passed out, in the summertime they can be passed out, that might not be a big deal, but if you're passed out in this cold weather, that's a very big deal.
You know, it's always a big deal when someone's passed out.
Right.
The kicker is when someone has had trauma, so they've had injury to their brain or injury on the inside and they could potentially be bleeding. Cold makes trauma patients not clot their blood very well. So again, they may have the same problem whether it's July or January, but their outcomes can be very different when they're cold.
Okay, so if you see someone at a party or waiting for an Uber and they're passed out, you should be attentive to them.
Absolutely. Don't ever assume someone's just sleeping it off. Whether you know them or not, it's important to make sure you see the patient or see the person, talk to them, and make sure that they're doing okay.
And I love your quote about alcohol, which is?
You never come up with good ideas when you're drunk.
Yeah, so there you go. So have a plan when you're going into this New Year's Eve, because you don't want to see her on New Year's Eve. You don't want to be in here on New Year's Eve. This is not the best place to be. Let's head back to the studio, guys.
All good tips, great reminders, Carlos. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.